Good evening, and thank you for attending. My name is Leslie Kane, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's debate. Before we begin, please silence all phones and electronic devices. Additionally, please refrain from any interruptions to the debate, as it is being recorded for on-demand viewing and post-captioning services. The Citizens Clean Elections Commission is the sponsor for this evening's debate. The Clean Elections Act is a campaign finance reform and public education measure initiated by Arizona citizens and passed by voters in 1998. The system provides clean funding for qualified participating candidates who agree to abide by the Citizens Clean Elections Act and rules. These include contribution and spending limits, foregoing special interest money, and participating in commission debates. We encourage audience questions, so please utilize the note card given to you when you entered the room and hold it up. Our volunteers will pick up the cards and deliver them to me. If you need additional cards, just raise your hand. If you have a question for a specific candidate, please include the candidate's name on the note card. It will be considered during the second half of the debate. We do screen questions for clarity to eliminate duplications, speeches, or personal attacks on candidates. The debate is scheduled for at least 1 hour, so we may not get to all audience questions, but we will do our best. Tonight's debate includes 1-minute opening statements. The first half of the debate begins with 2 minutes to each candidate to answer the same question. After all candidates have responded to the question, the first responding candidate will be given an additional 30 seconds. We will rotate which candidate responds first. The second half will allow a different question per candidate with 1 minute to answer and 1 minute closing statements. We ask that you remain polite to all of the candidates and give them a fair and uninterrupted hearing, no matter how strongly you may agree or disagree with anything being said. Tonight's participants are Mr. Juan Mendez, Democratic Clean Elections candidate for State Senator, District Number 26, and Ms. Debbie Nez Manuel, Democratic Clean Elections candidate for State Senator, District Number 26. And the order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by alphabetical order by last name, starting with the Senate. Obviously, we have 2 Senate candidates this evening for opening comments, and we'll progress from that starting point. The order for the second half will be determined by reverse alphabetical order by last name. Mr. Mendez, will you please start the opening remarks?
Thank you. My name is Juan Mendez. I want to give thanks to Clean Elections for making politics without dirty money possible, for everyone in attendance, and for those watching online. I'm running for re-election to continue working towards an end to the political and economic inequalities that too many of us work so hard under to provide for a better environment for our families and our shared future. I grew up in poverty. As a first-generation American that lived with domestic violence, my poverty was both generational and situational, but I wasn't a poor person. I watched my single mother struggle, trying to do magic with part-time jobs and food boxes, constantly living paycheck to paycheck and juggling final late notices. I couldn't imagine a future without today I'm grateful for my personal success and stability, but I owe it to my community and all the governmental services and programs. I'm a product of kids care, access, child care assistance, and food stamps. I benefited from an army of case managers and mentors from programs like Chicanos por la Causa and Boys and Girls Club. I've known firsthand that investment in community is the best way to contribute to our collective and shared good fortune, both economically and socially. And so with your vote for re-election, I hope to do more for us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nez Manuel?
Ja, she sanjikin inchle, selna building bashichin, sitna jini dashache, trabahan dashanale, she lay toward de yesede nasha, Queen the Salt River Indian Community Shagan. Shalchine Etra, Megan Do, Haley Do, Shandin Dalia, Ado Royce Manuel Shastki. Good evening, everyone. Clean Elections Bahiensen. I'm really grateful for this opportunity with Clean Elections to be able to share my positions and to help voters understand what it is that I intend to do while serving the state. I came here this evening to really help voters understand who I am and where I'm coming from. The philosophy that I've been given by my parents, my great-grandparents, and our traditional customs have really taught me to care about the people, if it's back on Navajo Nation, or if it's here within the city of Tempe, the city of Mesa, and anywhere around the state, Anytime I've worked with tribes and focused on some of the needs that they have when it comes to education, when it comes to health and human services, and protecting children, that is definitely something I can stand up for. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will begin the portion of the debate where each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the same question. The first question is for Ms. Nez Manuel. If elected, what would be the first bill you would submit, and what would you consider the most important issue to address?
Thank you for the question. I have spent a number of years working with youth and students in Mesa Public School, and I say that as a parent and a social worker. I've dedicated time working with our Native American programs and understanding the budgets that are there within the school system. One of the most important things that I've discovered is that, our teachers, and I think most of us can understand this with the Red for Ed movement, is our teachers are severely underpaid. We have classrooms that are overcrowded, which range anywhere from 35 to 45 students. We have buildings that are needing maintenance. And so when I think about the most important thing, I think about the Arizona Department of Education's Office of Indian Education. We have a legislation piece that has been trying to go through for 2 years, and all the budget is asking for is for our staff to be increased from 1 person to probably about 4. Currently we have 1 person in place who is overseeing 22 tribal nations across the state, extremely critical when it comes to providing education for our students. When I think about our students and the business economy, we have a number of people, state leaders, that are saying, oh yeah, we want our economy to grow, but we're really unwilling to serve our Native American communities. When we think about the people who are actually going to stay here and become lifelong residents, become taxpayers when they're living here in the county, we're really looking over this population that's going to be here locally. And so when I think about the legislation, that's one of the most critical pieces that I'd like to support our Department of Education in. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez?
Thank you. So the Red for Ed movement has been the best thing that's happened to the state legislature in my experience and from what I've studied. To supplement my meager state legislature pay, I've taken on various jobs in the education system. I've been a substitute high school teacher for Tempe and Mesa high schools. And then this last semester, I've been a co-instructor for the community colleges. And it is shocking what we ask our teachers to do, what we provide them with, and just the environment that they work in. There are too many times where I was subbing because they couldn't find a permanent sub. Teachers had left. There were senior classes that were being run by subs, and freshman classes. I mean, like English classes, where those are the worst things to not have a permanent teacher. And so, I'm really grateful for how the teachers in the Red for Ed movement settled on the petition to find sustainable revenue, and so I support that. But they're going to need to complement. They're going to need some kind of complement at the legislature side. When this passes, it's only going to bring us back to a certain level from all the cuts that we've suffered in education. And so the first thing I want to do when we get to the legislature is fix all of the revenue that we just keep giving away constantly in tax incentives, and we're literally just cutting taxes or giving taxes back to corporations and wealthy people. Those kinds of things just don't have to happen. And so I am proud to introduce legislation to stop that, to bring back sustainable revenue so that we can put in money back into education. This didn't happen on accident. We are suffering purposeful actions of trying to undercut our public education system.
Thank you. Ms. Nez Manuel, your 30-second response.
I think when I look at the public education system, when I really think about the tax credits, there are a lot of tax credits that are out there. We have corporations that have moved in because they believe that they can build our economy, only to find out that they can't really keep their families here. Their kids are dealing with an education system that ranks at 49, and I think that they were misguided. I think it's a great opportunity for everyone to come together and to help our system grow.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, what is your position on gun control?
Thank you. Again, this legislature has really stood out because of all the involvement that we've seen down at the Capitol. And it's been amazing to see so many youth get involved. And I'm really encouraged on how they came to us with research, they came to us with a plan, and they've asked for all different kinds of responsible legislation around guns. And some of the easiest things that we can do should have no pushback. But for some reason, people don't want to have reasonable background checks so that we make sure that guns are not falling into the hands of people that shouldn't have guns. It's a real simple, not very much has to be changed to what we're doing. And then personally, I've also introduced legislation to encourage responsible gun ownership around. I can't read another story about somebody who just left a gun unattended in their house or somewhere, and where someone suffered an accident. And so I want to encourage responsible gun ownership by instituting penalties for people who just who don't want to get into the right responsible gun ownership practices. And there are many other legislation that I've introduced. There's just way too many guns everywhere, and so I think an interesting way to approach this too is to end the militarization of our police. I was appalled when we started seeing Tempe police motorcycles with huge rifles on the back of their cars, or on the back of their motorcycles. It's just not the kind of environment that I want to live in. It doesn't encourage responsible gun ownership, and so I'm open to pretty much everything that the students brought to us to the legislature this last session. I'm willing to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nez Manuel,
Could you repeat the question?
what is your position on gun control?
As a mom, one of the most important concerns for me are school campuses, especially the safety of all kids from elementary all the way up to 12th graders. I've seen too often where our campuses are threatened by guns, and it may be students who have access to guns in their homes. I'd like to believe that there are responsible gun owners out there. I'd like to believe that they manage their guns well and they're locked, and that kids don't have access to them, or that anybody else for that matter has access to them. But being a victim of being held up by gunpoint, being mistaken by someone has really impacted me. I do feel like there's much more that we can do. So when I see these young students banding together saying, we need to control this, there is very good reason for that. When I look across our district, I also see issues where we need to really look at background clearances. We have individuals, our healthcare doesn't provide enough for our communities when it comes to mental health and wellness. That's one of the most critical areas of our community. As a professional social worker, I've met with so many clients, and I've sat and talked with them, and some of the pressures that they deal with, from having to work 2 or 3 jobs, from having to feed their children, from having to worry about their own health and how to get kids from point A to B. Those are real concerns of the people. And as a social worker, that's my concern. I listen to those things. I care about what people are saying, what our parents are concerned about. When I think about, the officials, public safety, they are servants to our community. It's really important to ensure that they have an understanding of the training that's required. Post-Arizona is available, and we need to ensure that their standards for training for police officers are high, that they're being tested, that they're being held accountable, and that there's someone there checking in with them regularly. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mendez, your 30-second response?
So I believe it's not shocking to say that the guns should not be able to just be transferable to people who shouldn't be able to have them. It's shocking, and I'd like to end there. Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Nez Manuel, what are your views on labor unions in Arizona?
I'm married to a retired firefighter who's served our district for over 22 years, and I definitely support unions. I have relatives and many family members who work in the carpenters union, the electrical union. There is definitely a place for them in our state. When I look at our educators, it's really important to understand that we have to support them when it comes to them pulling together and making a difference, because they're not doing it for themselves. Well, I guess in part, they've got to make their own living, but they're doing it for our kids, for our students, and that is really what's important. When I think about the unions and the history of the unions, if you have a full-time job, they're the reason why we have a full-time job, we have benefits, we have, some of us have sick leave, some of us have time off. They're the reason why, and we've got to really be grateful for those things. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all of the benefits.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez?
Personally, I'm a product of unions. My grandfather was supported and able to come over to America to help the ironworkers in all of a lot of our major projects in Arizona, from the Palo Verde power plant to the Navajo generating station. And I am grateful for the support that they gave my family and the stability they provided us. It's shocking to think that there's just not more norms for jobs. A job should be able to provide benefits, security, and a future. It's the idea that employers can get away with so much control and say over workers, and they're not allowed or supported in being able to come together as a union is just not productive for our economy. It's not productive for our workforce. I'm saddened by the recent Supreme Court decisions around unions. I'm a big supporter of unions. I personally have reached out to the workers in my community and have helped our local hotel workers fight for a union in our district. And we secured the first union hotel in Tempe. And it took way too much work to convince the people that own this hotel that it was in their best interest to allow for this union to happen. And so the process for unions to take place right now is just not easy. You would think for something that is so impactful on your life, you should have more say in how somebody's making more profit off of your labor. It should not be wrong for us to get together and decide to have discussions. And so I support all the unions that have reached out to me and endorsed me in the past. And again, I'm supportive of unions.
Thank you. Ms. Nez-Manuel, your 30-second response.
When I think about the unions, I think about their cost of living increases. We really need to look at that and ensure that we support their initiatives that come forward. When I look at the fire department, I look at the carpenters union, we have a lot of families who travel from a long way just to come here and work and help build our economy here. And so when we look at those safety measures that they take, if it's a cost of living, whatever the case might be, we really need to be supportive of those public, of the unions and the benefits that they're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, what is your position on the current status of immigration?
So, I mean, again, this is a very personal situation for me, or what we find ourselves in, the world we find ourselves in. It's so hard to go day by day with all of the families that are being separated. When I was in high school, in college, I had my uncle was deported, and it ripped my family apart. My grandmother was never the same, and it just put so much strain on our family's ability to be productive. And a lot of this is with all the recent changes that have come out of really just propaganda and like the whole idea of what ICE is and the immigration and enforcement is just a hoax that it's being used to take advantage of fear, to drum up fear, and to change how we as a nation treat and deal with immigrants. It's coming from a nation that that didn't have a right to this land in the first place, and then was using the excuse of religious persecution to come here, you'd think we'd have a more, a different approach to other people who are fleeing persecution. A lot of the fear of death and violence that these people are leaving are many of the results of the economic choices that we make and this ridiculous drug war that we've prolonged for so long. We are causing too much immigration. And right now, focusing on ripping families apart is not a productive way to enforce a country's immigration policy. It rips too much at the soul of who we are. It rips too much at, it's hard to have a forward face going forward for the country. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nesmanuel,
Repeat the question one more time.
what is your position on the current status of immigration?
The current status of immigration. I guess I have to really be honest here with our voters, is that we can't really do a whole lot for our communities if we're not thinking back to the immigration issues of either 1492 or the more recent ones. When I think about my sovereign nations, the 22 sovereign nations here in Arizona, I can't help but think of all of the immigration issues that we were dealing with as a people. When I think about the kindness, the generosity, the welcoming that our people gave to the people coming forward, I really have to think about my grandparents. The values that they instilled to us about generosity, about being kind, no matter where you come from, that's one of the most critical pieces of immigration policy. And currently, our society doesn't look at it that way. When we look at people who, especially children who are coming, we have, in our philosophy, we have nothing that says that you separate a parent from their child, that you separate nursing children from their parents. That's just unconscionable. And so when I think about our immigration policies, my mind, my heart immediately goes back to those times. And so for us to separate children and to mistreat one another the way we have been most recently, there's nothing humane about it. You know, we need to be really kind and respectful and compassionate toward one another. And to see what I've seen on the news or heard through our congressional leaders who are visiting these cages, that's just not right. So before we can even speak about anything, we have to think about our ancestral lands here and the people that are here today. What did they do? How did they behave? Is that something that we want to teach our children? That's what's really important to me.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, your 30-second response.
Thank you. Again, my mother came over as a high schooler, and I was born shortly after. And so every day I'm reminded of my privilege, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that have been shared with me. But I grew up with so many friends and family who have been affected by our immigration approach in such appalling ways. I couldn't finish, I was able to finish, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Nesmanuel, how will you represent all families from a family value standpoint?
From a family value standpoint, one of the most important things I've learned as a mom, I have 3 daughters, as I shared earlier. I have Megan, who is 20 years old. I have Haley, who is 15, and I have Shandine. Each one of these young ladies have taught me so much about being a mom, you know, the kindness that it takes, the compassion, the direction that you have to go as a mom, even when it comes to being disciplining them. And so when I think about families out there, I know those same families have the same values I do for their children. They care about them. They want good things for them. They have a vision for their children. You know, as a state legislature, I think when I look across the room and I see our legislators working, there's only a very few that really speak from their heart. So often they have hidden agendas that move them to do business, and you can see right through that. Our families, our real families who are out here in the district, really need someone to be humane. They need someone to be kind. They need someone to be compassionate. They need somebody to stop and listen. And so often that is not happening. Our legislatures right now treat every individual as a business transaction. Either, if you're a person of color, you're often excluded. If you're a person who comes from a certain zip code, you're excluded. If you're a person who is from a tribal community, you're excluded. Your votes, your voice, all of that, really makes a difference. And I've felt that. I've been to the legislature, I've been to the sessions, I've sat and I've approached people. I've even called some of our state leaders to introduce myself as a candidate, and I got declined on those simple introductions. We have lost a sense of character, leadership, and compassion for our own community. And that's something that's really disappointing. It's very disheartening to know that our state leaders are behaving and reacting in this way. It's very disappointing.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez,
Can I get the question again?
how will you represent all families from a family value standpoint?
Thank you. So, from my family experience, you're not going to be successful unless a lot of people want you to be successful. So I understand the need and the use of community and how it's a nurturing and compassionate approach. I want to have a government that wants to see people succeed. My experience in the legislature is totally opposite. The controlling party operates or governs from a sink or swim approach, where if you're doing successful, they're happy and tripping over themselves to give you a tax cut so you can do better. But if you're falling behind, they blame you. Like if it's your fault that our incomes have not risen, are stagnant, and the job economy is just in Arizona. We're encouraging all kinds of businesses that are coming here to take advantage of our workers. Those are not how you take care of a community. And so I lead from a point of empathy and compassion, and we can have a nurturing government. It's happened before. I'm the product of a nurturing government. People invested in me with all kinds of programs and workforce development, and I'm today successful in front of you. I graduated from ASU, ran my own nonprofit for years, helping other people in human services, get out of poverty and into jobs and housing. And so I know that a community is possible if we want everyone to succeed. And it's not hard to stop with tax cuts. Literally, before we put together a budget, the Republicans in control decide who we're giving money back to. We're trying to do more and more, but they're giving us less and less. And they honestly believe that they're going to poison you if we invest in our community. That you're going to grow up to be dependent, and that you're not going to be a productive people. But that's just not how I see the world. I know from personal experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nez Manuel, your 30-second response.
One of the stories that came to mind as I was telling you and ran out of time was that I think about some of the voters that signed my nomination petitions. I canvassed, knocked on doors, and it was really heartwarming to find voters out there who really understood, how important it was in this work that I started to pursue. And so I'm really grateful that even at this point in my journey that I already have a sense of family that I've created in the district, and I'm really happy about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, how will you advocate for students of color in Mesa Public Schools?
Again, with my experience for the last couple of years being a substitute high school teacher in Tempe and in Mesa, it is shocking that we just have pretty much given up on the idea of desegregation. The demographics I see between there's no real border there, but yet the makeup in schools and the support and how many schools are teaching out of those RV-looking things, they prop up out of nowhere. It's unfair that your zip code determines how much investment you receive in your education journey. So I'm totally in favor of reworking the formulas of how we distribute our money. The idea that you're locked into your zip code is just it doesn't do what education is supposed to be doing. And the other thing is, so we're losing. We have less and less money to give to Mesa because we're losing so much money to vouchers and to private schools and charter schools. They're leaving us with less money to put into our schools, and they're definitely not the answer to people who need full investment in their education. So we really have to rework our formulas.
Thank you. Ms. Nesmanuel,
Repeat that one more time, please.
how will you advocate for students of color in Mesa Public Schools?
One of the most important things that I've taken on is working with the ACLU and the Demand to Learn program. As a mom, I was able to pull together with a group of parents, and we looked around our county, and we were looking at the issues that charter schools were putting out there in the community by separating our children of color from attending their schools. Through that process and working with moms, I started to look at what's happening in our district where my kids go to school. In Mesa Public Schools, they attend elementary, junior high, and high school. They've participated, and in general, they haven't had any bad experiences until recently. But I think a large part of that is because of the education that I've done. My background in social work, my profession in social work has really allowed me to stand up and speak up and advocate for myself and my children. I've pursued opportunities for them that are available there. And until recently, when I started to really educate myself on what was happening with students of color, it's really concerning. With ACLU, we were able to work together and figure out what was happening, held the charter schools accountable. I was really glad to see their statements come through. So we really need to look at all of our districts, both Mesa Public, the districts in Mesa and Tempe, making sure that that issue is being addressed and resolved, and that we empower our parents to advocate for themselves, that we empower them to understand what their rights are as parents. Yeah, it's important to me. I think that so often our parents believe they don't have a voice. We have to do that for them. So unlike anyone else that's running, or unlike the person who's in the Senate right now, I am in the schools. I am talking with parents, and I'm sitting and having those conversations with them. And that's something I intend to keep doing. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mendez, your 30-second response?
So specifically in Mesa, I've substituted for our English language learner classes. And for those who aren't aware, that there are blocks where we subjugate students who are learning English into classes by themselves. And it's totally stunting their growth. I've seen firsthand how these are just not productive. It's just not right for how we're holding certain students back. And so the easiest thing we could do, well, not the easiest, because it would take an initiative to address how we're stuck in these 4-hour blocks, but we also have ways of the legislature that we can address this too.
Thank you. Ms. Nesmanuel, what is your position on climate change and its effect on the environment?
I'm really concerned about what happens with litter. When we have so many areas where litter is found anywhere else, you know, we think about the issues that happen and how it affects our environment. And when we look at climate control, we're looking at how we use resources, natural resources, and compared to the litter that we find around the area. So when I look at litter, I see it get into our waters. I see that happening. I see how our expansion and our development is evolving so fast that we're not doing enough to ensure that we protect, you know, what our surroundings, to protect our surroundings. And so when I think about climate control, there's so much more that as groups of people from around the state, we can do so much more.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez?
So the climate change is so much bigger than litter. We have corporations and special interests that are taking advantage of our world. We need our world more than the world needs us. And so we have to rethink how we're doing everything from economically to how we're getting our power. We have to recognize that we live in a desert. Right now, New Jersey captures more energy from the sun than we do, even though we receive so much more sun than they do. So the first thing we need to be doing is supporting the clean energy initiative that's been circulating right now. You can still sign that, and that will bring us into where we have to 50% of our energy has to come from clean or renewable sources. And when we're giving ourselves till 2030 to come up with a plan to make that possible, and it's definitely a realistic plan, and it's something that's going to provide us all or guarantee us some kind of attempt at a future. In regards to how climate change is changing how much water we have available to ourselves in Arizona. We can't keep at the pace of our unsustainable growth for much longer without settling all the disputes over water. And we have to recognize that we are like 7th in line for 7 other states that get water out of the Colorado River before us. And when Lake Mead drops to a certain level of water, restrictions start going into a place. And so we need to think wiser with our water usage, but it's more than just our individual use. Too much of our water is used by agriculture and heavy industry. And so there's easy things that we can put, restrictions that we can put on those sectors to save us a lot more water so that we have water. We have to protect water not just for us, but for the service that water does for the whole environment.
Thank you. Ms. Nez Manuel, your 30-second response.
I'm sorry, I had misunderstood the question earlier when you asked, and that's why I spoke about litter. But when I think about the water issues, I think about what our tribes are doing today. We are working together to ensure that water is available for many people. As I walked around canvassing, and one of the most important things that I admired about our district is the amount of work that Tempe is doing to be innovative, to ensure that our landscaping is shifting from lawns into desert landscape. I think that when tribes are coming together, I just ran out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will transition to the second part of the debate where each candidate will receive a separate question with 1 minute to respond. Remember, you may still submit questions via note cards and direct them to specific candidates. The first question is for Ms. Nez Manuel. Ms. Nez Manuel, what is your position on the state returning funding to community colleges?
I believe that's one of the most critical areas of our education system. Right now, we look at the affordable housing issues that community colleges are facing when they're working with students. The college systems that are there are dealing with an age group that are transitioning from being cared for by parents and then transitioning into young adulthood. And that transition is a very critical time. There's too many times where we hear young people having a difficult time because they're dealing with mental health issues, depression, they may be dealing with homelessness, and there's a gap in time from the time school starts to the time they receive their scholarship monies, and where that population is really important. So returning money to those community schools is the right thing to do.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, college tuition is higher than it's ever been. How do you propose we bring the cost down?
So when I entered into college at ASU, I was paying just under $4,000 a year for my college education. And now I'm reaching out to voters who are struggling to put their children through college because they're being asked to find upwards of over $10,000 a year to put their kids through college education. And too much of that is because the state legislature has decided to just defund our university system. Pretty much every system, from the community colleges down to the universities and the K-12 system. But we do not provide the universities with a reliable, sustainable funding source. Every year they have to wait for the legislature to tell them how they're going to get funded, and it just does not allow them to make decisions. And it's the regents who are responsible for putting too much of this on the backs of the students, but it's because of the situation that they find themselves in, because the state's neglecting to invest in our public education system.
Thank you. Ms. Nez-Manuel, what is your position on the recent controversy with updating the K-12 science standards in schools?
When I attended, I serve as a chair on the Arizona Department of Education's Office of Indian Education, and we sat there and we looked at these core standards. There's an issue that I think many of a good part of the curriculum is dealing with. If it's social studies, if it's science, no matter what it might be, they're not up to date. They're out of date. They often don't reflect the modern day science that our students need to learn about. They don't reflect any of the social study issues that our community should know about. So, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, how do you plan to make childcare more affordable?
So this is just something, again, the legislature refuses to invest in. And so if we can elect more Democratic members to allow for us to have a majority so that we can introduce the legislation to invest in child care assistance, we can make it more affordable for working families. And we have to think about child care assistance as an investment in our job economy. The more people that we can keep working, the more that they are not having to rely on other services. I'm a product of child care assistance. The child care assistance made it so that my mother could work multiple jobs and know that someone was taking care of our children. And so right now we have a waiting list that has not moved because we don't put money into child care assistance. And so it's just a simple decision of values and whether or not you value children having a reliable, sustainable place to help educate them and take care of them, and if you value supporting your working class.
Thank you. Ms. Nez-Manuel, what is your position on uranium mining south of the Grand Canyon and in the Colorado Strip?
One of the biggest struggles that we face when any mining happens is the health consequences. When it comes to our health, that's all we have as human beings, and it's really disappointing to see businesses come into areas where they can profit off of mining. There's no balance to it. In our traditional philosophy, when you take something from the land and you want to give something back, and all we get back in return are people who are ill, people who are struggling with their health, and it's detrimental. There's no amount of money to me that would allow me to allow my family members to deal with that. There's got to be better ways for our people to be able to make money, to make a living, and I do not support that at all. I think our health, the health of our people, is more critical than anything else.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, what have you done to fight corporate influence in our elections?
So I've just finished my 6th year in office, and every year I refused the corporate influence. I'm a clean elections candidate, and that means I don't have to privatize my campaign to run for office. I definitely encourage more of my members to cut off money so that the corporate is not able to influence us. But I've also supported legislation to help show us where how corporations are spending money and trying to influence our elections. It's ridiculous how they're able to funnel money through other entities, and so we can easily support the Dirty Money initiative that's going around right now. It's something that the public does support, and it's just simple. If somebody, some entity or business, corporation, special interest spends $10,000 or more, either in support of me or against me or against any of the initiatives, we should know where that money's coming from. That's too much influence over our government.
Thank you. Ms. Nez-Manuel, what can be done to repurpose the Navajo generating station, and how can those workers retain work?
I think when it comes to the Navajo Generation Station, you have so many different views. You have individuals who support it, and of course the others who are asking their family and relatives to look for opportunities that would continue to support them over time. But, when it comes down to it, I see our family members who, again, just like uranium mining, I see our family members, and I say that because in Navajo, we have this philosophy, everybody who works there is related to me. And even on the Hopi side, I have relatives there who are dependent on that budget. But it's detrimental to the health of the people. When we look at what's happening there, we have to really face the hard facts. Is this something that we can support? When it comes to cancer, when it comes to the aches and pains of our elders after they've worked there many years and retired, those are things that I see as a social worker. I see people suffering, and I'm not so sure I can support that. But at the same time, I understand that there's a lot of people who depend on that for their livelihood.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, what do you propose to do to improve the job climate in our state?
So I read this great book about the geography of jobs and how they're being distributed. And maybe we can see that there's been some desegregation around certain sectors of our world, state and country. Too many people are segregating themselves around education attainment. And so what we can do to bring jobs to Arizona, to secure great jobs here and to make good jobs out of the jobs we already have, is to invest in our universities so that they can produce more college-educated workers. And it's not just going to help our economy because there's more people making money because they have college education. College-educated workers are job multipliers. They have a huge effect over our local economy. They affect everybody else's job. Everybody has a different workflow and a different, there's more money being exchanged if we can produce and retain more college-educated workers.
Thank you. Ms. Nez-Manuel, how will you address infrastructure funding?
Infrastructure funding. When I think about our funding, I look at some of the issues that are directly impacting our public education. I see the need for tax credits to be reviewed and evaluated regularly. When I look at some of the tax credits that are happening with simple things, my husband and I were working on some stuff, and we go over to Home Depot, Lowe's, and there's a lot of exemptions that can be made when constructions go there and purchase items. And if you can purchase one thing, you don't get a tax credit here, but you get a tax credit for something else. So when we look at some of our budget and our funding, we really have to pay attention to those small details. I think that when we look at those tax credits, we also have to ensure that we are really holding, our state accountable for checking the checks and balances. Otherwise, we just let that go, and there's no one reviewing them or reviewing the policies that are in place.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, in seeking re-election, name 3 major accomplishments that you made that have benefited District 26.
I take advantage of how progressive my district is, and I try to honor their values. I have had substantial influence in keeping our local Democratic Party progressive. I am in our small group meetings where we're putting together our messaging and our values, where we're deciding on what legislation we're going to endorse as a caucus. And so I'm able to keep our Democratic caucus progressive. And I have also, I take my job as a politician I think of my responsibility to engaging citizens and having active citizenship. And so I use my position to work to increase voter turnout. And so in my previous elections, I've had huge I've done much to increase voter turnout in our district specifically, so that more voters are engaged and can have a say in our state legislature.
Thank you. Ms. Nez-Manuel, how do you propose reducing opioid abuse in our state?
Some of the education that's already happening has really been helpful. When we look around our state, we see so many issues when it comes to drugs and alcohol. But when I think about one of the number one drugs that we are dealing with, I think about alcohol. I've taught in schools the importance of what drugs do to the body, and alcohol is one of the biggest risks that we take as individuals. It can impact a baby from in utero all the way through its lifetime. And then we add gateway drugs to that. And then we look at opioids, looking at our community, we have many people who are dealing with addictions. And when we sit back and look at it, we really need to come together as a community to ensure that our family members, our community is understanding the drugs before they start taking them.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, what is your response to Governor Ducey's statement regarding immigrant children being housed in Phoenix?
He's shown us again and again how he's not doing enough to secure our families and to represent our immigrant community. He's just disappointed us, and we have, being a border state, we have a lot of opportunity and responsibility to guide our immigration discussion, and he has just not done enough to represent our communities.
Thank you. Ms. Nez-Manuel, what is your position on food stamps being used for fast food?
I think when I look at people with poverty, there's this innate spirit in them that needs to survive. And when they have these opportunities to get food and to feel a sense of what others feel just to make a purchase, I think that sometimes is the reason for them to go to fast food places. I think the restrictions that have been lifted from before, I remember there was a time in my life when I was in college. I was attending ASU, going to school full-time, working full-time, taking care of my children, and taking care of my expenses. There was a time I had to use food stamps, and it was very difficult to be able to purchase what you need in the grocery store and then live the fast-paced life that you had. Stopping by to grab something on the way home when you're in the middle, transitioning from a full-time job to going to your evening classes. That's something that would have been helpful to me at that time. So I support the families. It doesn't go very far, but I support them.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, what is your position on students at Mesa Public Schools in gifted classes?
It's the same thing where how we have subgroups or protected classes that aren't being given the investment they need, and it's because we have so many charter schools and vouchers that are draining the money that we have available for education. And they don't get served in charter schools and with vouchers. It mainly falls on the public schools' responsibility to educate these students. And so if we valued everyone's education, we would be putting more money into the big education pot so that schools wouldn't have to make decisions of what programs get cut and what programs don't get fully funded. It's one of these problems that we are creating. The legislature, Republican-controlled legislature, is purposely underfunding our entire school system.
Thank you. Ms. Nez-Manuel, what do you feel sets you apart as a Senate candidate?
My academic integrity. When it came to some recent news that I had found out, I live in one of the toughest districts when it comes to integrity. And, I live at the foothill of ASU. Our professionals that are there from the very beginning ask us to respect, anything that's in writing, anything that is shared. If I have research institutions that are doing the hard work for our community, we need to ensure that the written documents and everything are actually given, we give them credit. I'm sorry, I'm losing myself here. But recently, the current, a couple of years ago, the voter guide that was used had some information in there that was not true. We wouldn't give our current Senate that's there sat there and wrote information and took credit for it as it was his own. But here at ASU, we have professionals that have taught us to ensure that honesty is the most important thing as we're running for office.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, how will you address health care for small business owners?
It's a setup that's against everybody. That arrangement doesn't serve the purpose of providing people with health care. Your health care shouldn't be tied to your employer. We're asking for a situation that's going to give us unequal results, that's just sort of fall apart. And so, I am, over the years, I've studied and I personally have experience with how Access works here in Arizona, our cost-sharing system for providing healthcare for our low-income and working families. And I believe, we have an amazing system. It's a model for the whole country. We should just expand that to everybody in the state. Let anybody jump into Access. It'll make it more sustainable, and we'll be able to provide people with more healthcare opportunities. If we just, right now it's just too much of this like sink or swim situation where if you get sick, you're just on your own, and that's not how healthcare should work. We want to be able to guarantee people the freedom to work and to be productive people. Then we should get together and share the cost of healthcare.
Thank you. Ms. Nez-Manuel, how would you attempt to address the issue of doctor shortages as an elected official?
I think that when I think about doctor shortages, I think about our rural reservations. I've seen that all of my life. Anytime you go to a healthcare center, you see people rotating in and out constantly, and I think there's an opportunity to look at our education system and find out how we can identify students who are interested in science and support their learning. There's STEM and STEAM programs that are out there, and we have students who could really benefit from resources. So trying to create and cultivate doctors, nurses, anyone in healthcare is real critical, and that starts with education.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, what is your position on the legalization of recreational marijuana?
So I support the legalization of cannabis. If the drug war's purpose was to incarcerate so many people and so many minorities, that's the only thing it's been successful at doing. It has done nothing to address the consumption of substances that are demonized. And from the beginning, the drug war has just been, a charade to take advantage of minorities. And so, if we were serious about, putting an end to a lot of the violence that many of the Latin American and countries to the south of us have to live with, we could help them out by legalizing cannabis. It would take a drug out of, an item out of the illegal drug market and legalize it, and it would make it safer for everybody involved. And so I support the legalization of marijuana, introduce the legislation myself.
Thank you. Ms. Nez-Manuel, how would you make the Medicaid program more cost-efficient?
Recently, I went to really look at some of these numbers, and it seems to me that we need to have universal health care. When I look at my family and I look at the premiums that I would have to be paying for our cost, it would, no matter what the situation is, even if I had a good job, the premiums are high. Especially if you're going to be using it regularly. I think about the seniors and the elders and anybody with any kind of chronic or acute health condition. If you're on the freeway and you have a car accident, there's a deductible that is pretty high. When you look at the marketplace, no matter how you shift those numbers around, we really need to look at providing affordable health care for everyone that's here. When I look at access, I think that's a great model, that's being used, and it's been working for us, and I think we really need to do more to ensure that it's available for everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez, what steps would you take to continue diversifying Arizona's economy, and what industries or sectors would you focus on?
So, bringing a lot of different jobs to our economy. I grew up in a job economy where we're too heavily focused on customer service jobs, on warehouse jobs, and those are not jobs to grow up under, to raise a family with. We have a choice in what we can do to attract different industries to come here. And the kind of industries that we want are not going to make a choice based off a tax decision or based off how much money we give back to them or how much money we invest in their buildings if they come here. The kind of businesses that we want working for us are going to come if we can provide and retain a college-educated workforce. There are too many companies in my district especially, like Intel, who said publicly have stated that they wouldn't decide to move here if they had the choice to do it all over again. We are just not doing anything to bring the workforce in that would attract the jobs we want. We're doing everything we can, almost, is what it feels like, to attract warehouse jobs and customer service jobs.
Thank you. At this time, we will have our closing statements, and the first closing statement will be given by Ms. Nez-Manuel.
I really appreciate the Clean Elections for making this opportunity available. I look around our district and I see some of the most challenging situations when families are dealing with poverty. I look at our students and I see that public education has really been a challenge for our classrooms, for our teachers, for our parents. When we look at some of the charter school issues that are taking money and shifting it away from our public school system, to me, that's a problem as parents. It's a problem for our economy. It's a problem for our future. I really would like to see our legislature take action. This is something that I'm willing to stand for when I go forward, is to be able to find ways to work with everyone that's there and to talk about accountability standards, ethics. We didn't talk about domestic violence or sexual assault today, but when we look at our legislators, we need to ensure that women who are at the legislature are safe, that our populations and the LGBTQ are safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez?
Thank you. I could win this primary, get reelected in November, and not be able to accomplish anything if I get elected alone. For me to be successful, I need you to vote Democratic up and down the ballot and make sure your friends and neighbors across the state do the same. If you turn out to vote this election, we could be working with the Democratic majority state Senate. Because of low pay and term limits, I'll be one of the few state senators with institutional knowledge of the last 6 years. I could run for leadership or at least chair a committee and undo all the Republican damage that's been done to our state. If we're going to prosper together, our resiliency needs to be fortified with public investment. Your individual private success, however you want to frame it, was built on public investment in private institutions. We need to source revenue in responsible ways in order to make much-needed investments in our education, our health, infrastructure, transportation, research, economic stability, and protections of all sorts. So reach out to me after the debate or online at mendezforarizona.com or at mendezforaz on Twitter for opportunities to get involved. We need everyone's help, even for a couple of hours, to make sure our neighbors turn out to vote for our shared best interest. Thanks.
Thank you. To our candidates, we thank you so much for participating in our forum. And to our audience members, we thank all of you who took time to come and inform yourselves before voting. We encourage you to visit www.azcleanelections.gov/voter dashboard for a customized experience to find information on the primary election, the candidates as well, the issues, and to view this debate on demand. Please fill out the debate evaluation form and return it to one of our volunteers. Your feedback is very important to the Commission and will help to improve future debates. Thank you all for coming tonight, and you're welcome to stay and speak directly with the candidates. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.